All right, let's take some emails.
No, you're not. You are not getting out of this news section without talking about that Skullgirls update.
Skullgirls had an update, and Skullgirls went through. So we talked about last week how they basically Mike Z went, "Yo, I can make the Skullgirls netcode better." So we talked about how they did, and they found a way to make the rollback work better. That rolled out.
Yay.
That was awesome. Perfect moment to have a game that already has great netcode be even better. And then alongside that came another update where Mike Z basically went, hey, so now when you connect to people, you can see what kind of connection they have. You can see if they're wired or on Wi-Fi. And that is...
There's no way to turn it off.
Yeah. That is a feature that has existed in Mortal Kombat 11 for a year now, by the way.
Oh, cool. Didn't know that.
Apparently, a lot of people didn't know that. So, I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's because it was rolled out in the whole package and not a unique news story. I think the only reason why this was caught in this way is because it was a unique news story onto itself as opposed to part of the full package, because no one seems to have known that MK was doing this the entire time. And it was...
People are saying it's in Dead or Alive 6 and Injustice 2.
It's great. It's a fucking fantastic feature. And you connect to somebody ranked and you can just see, hey, this is on that connection. Cool. Let's play. Nope. Don't want to do that. Whatever. And then someone says, oh, what about a filter for it? And then, Mike says, hey, now that's too far, I think. But, the information is there. So, yes. What did we see? We saw like a highlights from a Resetera thread where some folks were under the impression that this was a bad thing because
they deserve refunds, man, because you're shaming people. Well, that's not okay.
Well, the game is $2, but
no. People can't afford wireless internet.
If you have the internet...
Is my favorite post.
If you have a router, you probably have an Ethernet port on the back of it. If you have Wi-Fi, you have wired. I don't understand that.
Let's ignore the fact that the default state of internet is wired.
Yeah.
Like,
the only exception I can think of is like if you're in a dorm room where you're not allowed to own a router. Or something like that, where you have to, or you're in like a hotel, or not a hotel, but like you're in a place where you're given a Wi-Fi password and that's all you get, right? That's the only type of, like, otherwise, if you're in a place where you are paying for internet, unless you're...
Well, then you shouldn't feel bad because it's not your fault. It's out of your control.
It is. Or, if you're stealing internet via Wi-Fi of your neighbor, then you might not have access to an Ethernet port, I suppose. But for the most part, if you do have internet, you're gonna have a port that you can plug a wire into, and that's neither here nor there. It's really just
this needs a filter. This needs a filter so bad, and it needs to put like a hat on your character, like a dunce hat.
I think I agree with Mike in that it's like if it shows you the information, you can choose to do with that information what you will. I think that's more than fair. Mortal Kombat pops up, shows you the challenger, shows you the information, and then it lets you decline or accept the challenge. When it comes to it, yeah, there's a lot of that. And then there were some folks that were saying that this is a privilege to take, and perhaps like there could be like arcade stick privilege and things like that. And
sure, fuck it.
Well, no.
Why not?
Because I
only want to play against people who don't use arcade sticks.
I think all of it more or less just is like there's a point where you're like, well, this doesn't make sense and this doesn't make sense, and then it's so divorced from what's happening if you just played the game that you're like, okay, this is very, very clear to me that you're not actually people that play these games, or this game in particular.
Never Never are.
You have a very strong opinion about it, but it seems like you don't actually play them. And there definitely will be folks that say, yeah, I do play them and I still feel this way. And of course, there's no absolutes, but some of these opinions were definitely really, really extreme in that regard. And I feel like from the takes, which it sounded like we're in the extreme minority, most people did. I didn't go look, but I was told that most of the thread was people telling those people that makes no sense, and apparently getting banned up for it. I don't know. I don't like. At the end of the day, dude, one of the
getting banned on Reset Era seems to be a trivial concern.
Well, someone said something to the effect of remember when Willie used to bring up NeoGAF all the time, and I'm like, I never had an account. I literally didn't ever. You and Matt, and you guys would always talk about NeoGAF stuff and Resetter stuff, but I never used to browse those forums. I didn't do anything there.
I used to talk about GAF stuff, and then I was like, oh, cool, Resetter, and I made an account, and I think I made 2 posts on it ever, and then I was like, I'm done with
I've
this,
never been anywhere. I've never been a person that used either of those.
I loved
forums.
GAF though. GAF was great.
Yeah, I was out, so I just please do not whirlwind me into something that I have nothing to do with. But for the most part, what I can tell is that yeah, man, that just sounds like someone who really doesn't know anything about the subject matter, and that's not a crime. There's a lot of times when you don't know a thing about a subject matter, but one would hope that hopefully you can catch an explanation that makes sense to you. But there's a lot of people that also tried and failed, and were just like, dude, don't bother, And I mean, there was someone in the very thread that we are discussing that was aggressively not wanting to hear the truth about any of this, and just had their perspective on it, and it's that it doesn't matter that my participation here makes the game unplayable. It is my prerogative to connect to the game and play it badly, and if you can't play it the way you want to, that's too bad for you. I'm allowed to have my own way with this. And there's a point to be made where, well, the game certainly doesn't make it impossible for you to play that way. So you could argue that if you wanted to, you're just going to find that most people will think it's kind of dickish, because there's a bit of a social contract in place, and you can't enforce it.
What's a social contract? That seems stupid. God damn it! I'm going to do what I want.
You can do what you want. You might get called out for it, and you might be.
No, you can't call me out.
Okay, well.
Also.
Well, it doesn't work that way.
My name is Karen.
It doesn't work that way. You can do what you want.
It does work that way. Shut up.
You're not wrong.
I'll fight you.
You can do what you want, but you might get called out for doing what you want.
No, I'm going to call out your call out, because call outs are bad. Don't call me out.
Okay.
I'm going to shit up this Wi-Fi. I'm going to shit it up. Well, and that's my right, goddammit.
Well,
I'm going to shit it up. Who are you to tell me not to shit it up? I'm in my house. You don't pay my sub.
I mean, I would love to see what it looks like when someone is enjoying a game where the character is teleporting over the screen.
They don't. That's why they're so mad.
Well, I mean, again, I think the truth of the matter is the person who is saying all this doesn't have the game. They haven't played it. I think it's more of a statement about a piece of news.
Oh, no, Wooly. I play a goddamn MMO. These people do play the game. They are real. You don't pay my sub. They don't care.
Okay, that. Yeah, definitely.
It is everyone else's responsibility to carry their enjoyment.
But I think a lot of the people that are chiming in with that information, usually going through the conversation, you'll get to a point where they'll say something to the effect of, see, this type of mean-spiritedness and exclusivity is why I don't play fighting games. And it'll be like, well, there it is. You just said it, right?
Yeah.
You're coming at this with an understanding of, I don't know what genre you play. Perhaps it's something server-based, Perhaps it's something that does not need to handle packet loss the same way that a fighting game does. But
in some cases, the genre you play is literally nothing. At which point it becomes very confusing while you're talking about video games at all.
But usually shows at some point that it's like you don't have familiarity with games that like require two players to have a good connection with each other. If the person drops out of another genre of game where that doesn't matter, they're just gone from the match and that's the end of it. So, or I'm making a lot of assumptions, of course, about who this type of person might be because it just I'm trying to characterize it. But for the most part, what you end up with is something that it feels like. At first, I'm like, this is absurdly stupid, but then I kind of like go through a second take of it and go, you don't know, and you're commenting on a subject matter that you just have an opinion about without actually getting it. You're missing information, Yeah, not much else to say except the state of affairs is that the indicator is there. It's also there in the games we mentioned, and with any hope, this will continue to be the status quo. And
hopefully we can get some filters in here.
I don't think we need filters, but I do think...
And some shame features.
I do think that if we get this to be the status quo, we will probably... I think it matters more that the people who do understand, the overwhelming majority of people who do understand why this is a good thing, have a good experience.
Is solid.
I think it's important that they have a good experience with the game, and this would add and contribute to that, as opposed to, like people who don't play the game, that don't own it.
I think that the natural end point of this is that you play a bunch of games, and it shows that you disconnect a couple times, not enough for it to be a problem, but a couple, and that the game is recorded your packet loss per match, and that you go to log into Skullgirls and it says, hey, we noticed that you're always playing on Wi-Fi and that you're making a bad experience for other players. We have elected to put you into the Wi-Fi prison where you can now only play people that are using Wi-Fi.
So the same thing as Rage Quit Jail and Cheater Jail?
Yes, but now it is Wi-Fi jail. And you know what? Let's save some development resources and make it all the same jail. Just to cut out the middleman. Because what is Wi-Fi based teleporting other than cheating? Cheating by accident, maybe.
I don't want to see it, but if I see someone start to do it, I'm not going to exactly raise my hand to stop them. Wait, no. Don't do that. Don't do that to those players. The gulags.
A Wi-Fi player is just a quitter in training.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, one thing is for certain, right? Like, the early days of connecting to things made it such that, like, Wi-Fi was not as common. But now...
it was actually straight up uncommon.
Having Wi-Fi was the fancier internet.
It's funny because
that was
like, this is also like a... Sorry, after you.
No, it's just like one could say that like if you the people with the Wi-Fi were the privileged ones originally.
Absolutely.
And now, you have consoles like the Switch where they don't even have an Ethernet port, so you don't even get the choice to fucking be hardwired in.
The Switch is a really good example because it's a spectrum of dumb shit. On one end, you have the Switch, which doesn't come with a Wi-Fi port. Sorry, it doesn't come with an Ethernet port. So there is actually a monetary investment that you need to do to get a thing. Everyone's drowning in Ethernet cables or knows somebody who has a spare Ethernet cable. I'm going to put the cost of an Ethernet cable at $0. Everybody knows someone that has
people
too many
People have
Ethernet
posted
cables.
their Walmart things of like, here's one for $15. It's humongous or whatever the fuck. But
Switch, you got to buy an adapter, and that's like a thing, right? So you got to end up with a lot of people playing Switch games online with Wi-Fi because the system is actually trying to stop you from using Ethernet, which is stupid as fuck. Then you have your consoles, right? Which they can use Wi-Fi and they can use Ethernet, and then they have, depending on where it is in your house or the ability of you to put that console where you want in your house is gonna determine that. And then you have PCs in which like who no one is using Wi-Fi for their PC. I'm not talking about their laptop. Of course, people are using Ethernet, Wi-Fi for their laptops, right? But for their PC, like you'd have to install like a something with a wireless card in there instead of just using the fucking built-in Ethernet port.
Yeah. There's a million analogies one can come up with for a type of game where you are
Hold on a second.
sure.
We have a lot of people here saying I use Wi-Fi for my PC. What are you, fucking stupid? Plug a cable in, morons. It'll go faster. Vroom. It's like getting a free internet upgrade for like $10. Internet go faster. Vroom. Brr. Like, come on.
The issue with Wi-Fi in terms of fighting games is consistency, not speed, though. Just FYI.
Oh yeah, but I mean, everything will go faster.
Everything good. Everything.
When you're acquiring a film,
yeah,
and packets get lost, and you have to reacquire part of the film again because you were on Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's gonna go faster.
I'm lucky enough that my router is sitting on top of my PC. So
Mine's like I think it's 1 foot away, but I had to do some extra fancy cabling around my basement to do so, and I goddamn did it.
I also got an Orbi.
If you need to run a goddamn 100-foot Ethernet cable on your fucking bare floor and tape it down like duct tape and look like an asshole, you should do it.
I got an Orbi system that is like Wi-Fi signal boosting for the apartment for like, you know, like phones and shit. And those do actually have cables you can run too, but it's like, yeah, when it just depends. It really depends. If you're gonna play a game that requires, you know, peer-to-peer connections with people, like you gotta. You know, well, you don't gotta, but dear God, please, you can understand that the ruining of the game is not going to be seen favorably by the other person on the other line who also paid for their copy that is going to try and enjoy it, and they can't, you know?
So the thing you were saying earlier, I really feel like it nails it, and it is that the people who are always fighting against it and saying, oh, Wi-Fi's fine, whatever, and it's like, the game would be better for them too.
It would.
Like, significantly.
Yeah, it's a very, you know, it's a very strange thing because it's like, it's just seeing the perspective. It's glass half full, glass half empty, where it's just like, you know, both players are having their experience ruined, and you know, there's this sign that is like, well, if one person is philosophically leaning towards the idea that, you know, no one connection should be considered better than another, then you're going to hit a world where we both lose out effectively. And when the word like comes out that says like, oh, like the dismissive word in the discussion was like, oh, it's just elitism, it's just elitist bullshit, and it was kind of just like,
yeah,
I don't,
I guess it is,
I don't see the line from I just want my game to function, you know, to
that's Wooly, that's elitist.
Because the problem is that fighting games in particular don't have good netcodes. They have bad ones that result in many times an unplayable state being possible through the game's own like systems. Like like there's not enough in place to stop an unplayable match from occurring. So we have had to go through a series of unwritten rules, so to speak, social contracts of like, this is probably how we both want to enjoy the game we've spent some money on.
There's a bunch of analogies you can use for this. I personally like the idea of an F1 race.
Okay.
In which everyone's got their F1 cars, and a guy shows up with his 93 Ford Tempo and wants to be led onto the track. And you're like, dude, You can't, like, your car's going to be like a brick out there. It's going to be dangerous for the other racers. It's going to ruin the race.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy starts screaming out, "That's elitist because I don't have a race car." Except all the cars in this situation cost the same, and the Ford Tempo actually costs more because Wi-Fi is more expensive than Ethernet.
Yeah, no, that works. That does work. My analogy I was trying to explain to Punch Mom yesterday was terrible. I think I described, like, imagine you had to play a poker game, but somebody had a compulsion where they had to peek over at the person next to them's cards and yell them out at the table. And it was, and I was like, you can't.
What if you had a
you can't
what if
play
you had a
with that
fighting
person.
tournament and the fighting tournament was completely open entry with no rules, and you had like a bunch of kids walk in?
Yeah.
And then when you're like, I don't think these kids should be in this death tournament.
Yeah.
The kids are like, you guys are just hating on us because we're kids.
I forgot that the race car analogy from like many episodes ago worked really well, and we're still on that. And yes, here we are talking about connections in fighting games for 30 minutes on the podcast.
Hey man,
again.
I like to bring connections out to everything. All connection based everything.
I know.
Talking with people
I know.
on Wi-Fi that like are using voice chat can suck shit too.
I know. I just
talking like, you know.
I was not allowed to get out of the news without discussing this, but
Wooly, I don't know if you know this.
Let the record show that I tried.
Like, if you are putting up and down a lot of bandwidth with Wi-Fi, it makes your dick smaller.
Okay.
It makes your dick small.
Let the record
if
show.
Your dick is being hit with tons of Wi-Fi powered signals all the time because you like to play fighting games online with Wi-Fi, your pinor gets small.
And for the record, while we're talking about trying and structure, the topics we covered on the podcast were Scarlet Nexus, The Medium, The Ascent, The Chorus, Call of the Sea, Scorn, Bright Memory, Gravity Well, The Studio, Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath, Bubble Bobble 4, Friends, Gal Fighters, Rage of the Dragons, and Ghost Runner. So there are your topics.
Dude, I just found this article. It's super real. It says that on average, the average Wi-Fi player is more unattractive than the average direct connected Ethernet player.
No kidding.
It's true.
The Wi-Fi signals, they hit the skin and they
actually it seems to be thought that people are using Wi-Fi to hide their unattractiveness. The packet loss obscures enough of their visage.
I thought it was because the contained Ethernet cable actually keeps all the horrible internet energy from corrupting the skin and
from
the flesh.
Damaging you.
Yeah, but the broadcast Wi-Fi goes through your body as it goes to your device, and that degrades the flesh and the skin, and it makes things look awful.
So, for those of you who are looking at the stream right now, then can see me. Hello everyone. You might be shocked to know this, but I once looked at a Wi-Fi router from a couple feet away, and I'm actually only 22 years old. Okay, I was hit with unshielded Wi-Fi energy from a fighting game.
Yeah.
And aged 10 years in a day.
Yeah. Speaking of 22 years old, I was given the impression that that's about the age of the person that was making these claims.
Hey, Wooly, how bad is it for you when you start talking to somebody and you're like, "What are you, like a fucking idiot?" And they're like, "No, I'm only 22." And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess you are then." Like, I feel like I'm getting older by a year every day.
Yeah. Every once in a while, such as last night, for example. You click reply, and then you stop, and then you back out, and then you click the profile, and you see, oh, 1997. Okay, all right, no, we're good. We're done here.
So like,
Never mind.
I had that moment once.
Yeah.
I had that moment once.
Ageism. Yeah, go
where
on.
I was on Twitter and I received a dumb comment, which was very stupid and aggressive. And I was like, should I dunk on this person? This is very stupid.
Here it comes.
And then I looked and I was like, oh, this is like I'm not even sure if this is an adult, right? Like they might even be like 15. Would that really be okay to make fun of a child? We all been there. And in the time that I was thinking that, my brain, like part of my brain in the back screamed, nah, fuck them. And I quote retweeted their dumb bullshit and was like, man, you're fucking super dumb. And I felt great because it was easy, because children are weak and you can punch them.
All right.
And they're not strong enough to punch you back most of the time. With your words, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Jordan was right. Fuck them kids.
yeah, but the problem is that they weren't around when Jordan was being right.
Yeah, I guess that is the problem.
You know. And in this is one of those cases where there's you hit him with that okay boomer.
Oh.
And it's like, yeah, that's...
Wait, you hit the kid with the okay boomer?
No. They snap back with the okay boomer.
Okay.
Like, for example, right now, where you're just like,
Yeah.
what are you, fucking 20 something? Get a fuck out. But but it's like, no, but you're missing information. And if you had this information, if you acquired it at an earlier time in your life, you would have had a better understanding of the subject matter, which you are now very passionately arguing for, and you would not sound as stupid as you currently do. But God bless.
Yeah. I'd like to respond to one last comment here, because I think it's really funny. Somebody points out that, Pat, you are small, fat, out of shape, and most teenagers are probably stronger than you. That is 100% true. However, most teens and children have grown up in zero tolerance schools, which means most of them didn't get their ass kicked like I did when I was younger. And the ability to know that it's not the end of the world when you get punched in the face gives you the ability to take a couple hits and really, just punch somebody in the throat. What? I'm talking about fighting children. What's the problem here? There's another side of this conversation that makes it make sense. Yeah. Anyway, I could fight a bunch of children. I'm sure I could beat up probably like 15 4-year-olds. Is that still like a quiz you can do?
I would just like to take the opportunity to give a shout out on the subject matter to Corey Bell and James Chen, who have a podcast called OK Sonic Boomer.
Oh, that's good.
Where Corey asks a bunch of questions as a new FGC member to an old head, and James tells him what it was like back in the day, how things used to be growing up at the early days of the FGC, and it's fun. It's a good time if you want to hear what it used to be like. Okay, Sonic Boomer, solid name, solid concept, good execution, solid finish.